initial branches. The question of further expanding into surrounding cities will be open for discussion.
Okay, so you've heard all about how we're going to actually enter Saudi Arabia. These are some of our banking services. First, it's important to note that we are actually only going to enter in with personal banking upon first entry. This is because it's a very complex market that we have never entered before. Sharia compliant banking is a first time for us, so we think it's easier to just enter with one type of banking and then expand into more complex. So, as you can see, we have 3 different lines. First, we're going to do retail banking. These are going to be services that are used every day. They're kind of at the crux of banking. So these are things like savings account, checking accounts, certificates of deposit, which are more commonly known in the States as CDs, loans, and credit cards. Our second line of banking are going to be our stock brokerage services. These are crucial for us to obtain and reach that target market of people who have higher levels of income, who are looking for alternative ways to invest. Our third is going to be our partnership with SpeedCash. SpeedCash is kind of like Western Union. It's a wire transferring service. So essentially our customers who need to transfer money to maybe friends or family members who aren't in the area, they're going to be able to do this. One of the reasons that we picked SpeedCash over Western Union, which does have a presence in Saudi Arabia, is that SpeedCash has a much wider presence, and they're also widely dispersed throughout Europe and the rest of Asia. So our biggest issue is actually how we're going to charge for our services. As we've mentioned, we can't charge interest for our Sharia compliant products. It's prohibited, and that's the major way that most banks actually gain all of their profits. So as you can see by this table, we're going to offer all of our products in both ways. For savings and certificates of deposits, primarily the way that you attract people is through the receiving of their interest. But since we can't actually charge interest per se, how our Sharia compliant products are going to work is you take the money that you deposit in the bank, and then we will invest it into a Sharia compliant fund. These are things that don't have to do with alcohol, tobacco, pornography, firearms, things that are prohibited by Islam. Then these gains are then repaid back as dividends to the account owner, and that's how they actually gain interest without actually getting interest. Loans and credit cards are going to be our 2 services that vary the most. For our conventional banking, what's going to happen is you'll be charged interest based on whatever your balance is for the month. However, for Sharia compliant, let's say you want to buy a house and you need a loan. What actually happens is the bank purchases the house for you. We then will lease the house to our customer at an inflated price, which is how we retain some kind of profit for buying it without actually charging any interest. For our stock brokerage services, it actually requires no differentiation. Because the stockbroker only works as your agent, you can instruct the stockbroker to either remain Sharia compliant or not on an individual basis. It requires nothing on our bank side, and fees are incurred for each transaction, so that's completely fine. There's no type of interest charged.
Okay, so as I mentioned before, I'm the account director at at Transworld, and the reason ING has chosen Transworld to really lead them is because they don't really have any experience in the market. So because they don't have any experience and there's no awareness, it's really, really crucial for them to invest heavily in marketing and advertising. We want to take a modularized approach wherein the themes that ING has previously used is consistent, but it's catered to the Saudi Arabian population. So we're going to have a brand ambassador, Abdul Majid Abdullah, who is actually a very, very highly esteemed singer and a family man. And people will associate and want to be like him and will associate the brand with him. The advertising will be in the form of print media and outdoor at major airports, as well as the Riyadh minibus transport, which caters only to men, but that is our target market. So that's how that's going to work. And lastly, Transworld Publicity Co. will be responsible for the public relations. ING already does do a lot of charity work, and one of the 5 tenets of Islam is zakat. So we're going to keep that in mind, and we're really going to capitalize on the fact that people will support ING if ING supports the country and the faith. So also sponsorships. The ING presently already does sponsor the Asian Federation Sports Cup, but we really want to focus on going into the local sporting events that ING can get their name out. And sales promotions will not be done through Transworld, but they will be worked out with Samba, our JV partner. And then what we'll do is we'll have promotions, in-store sales promotions, which will be open for a window of 1 to 2 weeks, where people can really come in and build the sense of urgency because you know it's not going to last. So we really, really want to capitalize on persuasion and negotiation tactics to get the consumer in. And now we're going to show you a quick clip of a potential commercial. It's in the preliminary stages, and it is something that we will adapt here. Okay, at this time we're going to open the floor to any questions you may have regarding our potential expansion to the Saudi Arabian market. Thank you. Okay, questions? Shoot.
In your paper, when you talk about joint venture, you mentioned you're going to seek a 40% stake with Sama, and I was just wondering why. You gave some reasons for it, but I was just wondering how they outweigh the greater control that you have, which is kind of the law outside there that would allow you to get 60%.
Yeah. Well, that was mainly because it is such a new type of market that we're going to be entering. It's a new kind of service that we're going to be offering with the Islamic finance. And since we're going to be focusing on that, we didn't want to go in owning the entire company. We kind of want to have Sama guide us. And then we do still have the option over the next 10, 15 years or so to extend over to 60% ownership.
How will ING adapt to the new language? We were planning, I guess I missed this in the part, it'll be in the paper, we were planning on hiring local talent. There's two main universities, Al Faisal University and another one in Riyadh. So we were planning on, I guess, using students coming out of those universities to work for our new joint venture bank.
You didn't seem to mention if you're going to have any requirements to open a bank account. I mean, are they going to be perhaps more stringent or relaxed than, if your bank's in a more developed country?
Actually, we did research based on what people did now, and there actually aren't any kind of restrictions for things like savings or checking accounts pretty much across the board. You mostly find restrictions for things like certificates of deposits and loans, and even for loans, the restriction is pretty low. It's just a minimum monthly salary. With things like certificates of deposits is when you actually see much higher minimums, but we didn't find anywhere where our competitors were having restrictions, so we didn't really see any